Egypt's historic archaeological riches have attracted historians, scientists, and archaeologists for hundreds of years. Professional archaeologists in the land of the pyramids continue to make astounding findings to this day. Some of these results, however, are rather unexpected and difficult to explain. Historical papers, a mummified fetus, or a mythological god's tomb. Would you like to know more about this? Well, follow A Secret World until the end. According to the false rumors, discovered his tomb near the Nile River, and online users are now afraid that they have unleashed an ancient curse. The reports say that the tomb was discovered by scientists. However, the god of death and the afterlife was a legendary deity rather than a real person, and his tomb has not been found. Now let's get into a little bit of detail. It is impossible to overstate the magnitude of Egypt's influence on the cultures of other countries. There is evidence of trade ties that went as far east as the Indus Valley, dating back to the earliest days of pre-dynastic Egypt. These contacts were most likely established for commercial purposes. These trade routes flowed via the Near East, which resulted in an early interchange of themes and ideas between the civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt. The new kingdom brought even more active connections with Western Asia, including robust commercial and diplomatic relationships, as well as a mutual exchange of imagery and concepts with cultures such as the Assyrians and the Hittites. The Kushites, who governed Egypt during the 25th dynasty and whose monuments feature an innovative combination of native Nubian and pharaonic iconography, were one of the civilizations that flourished as a result of the lively connections that took place with the south. For many generations, the rulers and elite of Meroe, which is located in what now is Sudan, were buried in pyramid tombs. With over 200 pyramids having been discovered inside its boundaries, Sudan actually has a more significant number of pyramids than Egypt has within its borders. Additionally, Egypt contributed some of the foundational elements to the civilizations of the Aegean, Greek, and Roman regions, and via these cultures, Egypt had an impact on a great deal of the Western cultural canon. When you know what to look for, you may find Egyptian imagery, ideas, and viewpoints in architectural forms, on money, and in our day-to-day lives. In today's world, Egyptian imagery, concepts, and perspectives are found everywhere. Advertisements for a variety of cosmetic surgeries, for instance, often use a silhouette of Queen Nefertiti, whose name literally translates to "the lovely one has arrived." Both in terms of its geography and its culture, Egypt is a place where opposites coexist and patterns repeat. The terrain is nearly exclusively rocky and arid desert, with the exception of a swath of verdant land that extends along both sides of the Nile River as it travels the length of the nation. The river begins its journey far to the south, deep inside Africa. It eventually emerges into the north, where it transforms from a single channel into a fan-shaped structure known as a delta at its most northernmost point. The river eventually empties itself into the Mediterranean Sea. The river valley is framed on each side by towering cliffs made of sandstone and limestone, with deposits of other harder stones like granite and granodiorite found in the region of Aswan, which is located farther to the south. Because Egypt was geographically situated in such a way that it was mostly cut off from other parts of the world, its civilization was able to maintain a high level of continuity throughout the course of its long history. The section of the river valley that eventually gave rise to dynastic Egypt was relatively secluded from the rest of the world because it was surrounded by steep cliffs and vast deserts to the east and west, the ocean to the north, and a series of enormous rapids in the Nile to the south, which are collectively referred to as cataracts. Herodotus, a Greek historian, is credited with writing that Egypt was the gift of the Nile. It is impossible to overstate the significance of this river to the evolution of Egyptian culture and society. Without it, the Egyptian civilization would have been utterly unrecognizable. The Nile River not only supplied a reliable supply of water essential to life, but it also cultivated the rich fields that were essential to the development of this one-of-a-kind civilization, which has shown to be remarkably durable throughout its history. There is no need for alarm, despite the fact that publications claiming to have discovered a duplicate of Osiris's tomb in 2015 have recently reappeared, despite the fact that the bogus news is now spreading. Egypt's Sheikh Abdul Qurna necropolis was the location where a Spanish and Italian archaeological team made a significant discovery in January of 2015. The team discovered an old duplicate of the mythological tomb of Osiris. It is believed that Egyptians constructed the subterranean chamber that was based on the old story somewhere between 750 BC and 525 BC. According to an explanation provided by NBC at the time, the structure has a vast hall that is comprised of 5 pillars, as well as a stairway that leads down to a temple that contains a sculpture of Osiris. The eerie tomb has also a room that depicts both demons and gods brandishing knives, and Osiris's sign can be seen everywhere over the structure. Archaeologist Philippe Byry made the first discovery in 1887, but it was not until 2015 that the chambers associated with Osiris were located. Who was Osiris? Osiris was the name of a legendary deity who was worshipped in ancient Egypt. He was considered the god of both death and fertility. He is linked with farming, the dead, the afterlife, the resurrection of the living, and the growth of plants, along with being the father of Horus and the brother of Isis, Nephthys, and Seth. He was also in ancient Egypt. Rulers served as intricate middlemen who bridged the gap between the human world and the celestial realms. They were, of course, live persons. Nevertheless, upon ascending the throne, they also took on the role of encapsulating the enduring nature of the royal office itself. It was common practice to show the Ka, also known as the spirit of monarchy, as a distinct entity standing behind the human monarch. This divine part of the office of kingship was what gave the human person who held the position of king power. It was believed that the deity Horus, who had the head of a falcon and was known for his strength and virility, was the one who bestowed the throne onto the very first human monarch. The living king was said to have been affiliated with Horus. Osiris, Horus's father and a very influential figure in Egyptian mythology, held the position of ruler of the underworld. This god, who was one of the divine rulers of Egypt in its earliest iterations, represented the hope of rebirth. Osiris was brutally put to death by his brother Seth, the god of the disordered desert, but his wife Isis was able to bring him back to life with the powerful magic that she had. Because of his intelligence and expertise, Osiris was able to father the miracle Horus, who went on to avenge his murdered father and overthrow his tyrannical uncle from his rightful seat on the throne, so that he might rule Egypt on his own right. After his death, Osiris was elevated to the position of the monarch over the underworld, where he became the unending wellspring of rebirth. The deity was associated with deceased monarchs, which resulted in the creation of a cycle in which the deceased king became one with the divine ruler of the afterlife, and the dead king's successor conquered death in order to ascend to the throne as Horus. The progress made by ancient Egypt in its development. Although to the uninformed, the gigantic pyramids at Giza may have seemed to have sprung out of nowhere. They were constructed on thousands of years of cultural and technical growth and experimentation. The Egyptian civilization did not emerge fully formed from the mud of the Nile. Archaeologists in Egypt reported that they had discovered a treasure trove of ancient antiquities in the necropolis of Saqqara, near Cairo. Among the objects that were discovered were mummies and bronze sculptures that dated back 2,500 years. Mustafa Wasiri, the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, stated that among the treasures were 250 sarcophagi, also known as painted coffins, which contain well-preserved mummies on the inside. The sarcophagi were discovered during recent excavations at a burial ground located outside of Cairo. In one of the wooden sarcophagi, we uncovered for the first time a full and sealed papyri, he told reporters at a temporary display on Monday. The papyri was found in one of the sarcophagi. Immediately after its discovery, the manuscript was relocated to a museum in order to facilitate further research. Wasiri said that he felt it was comparable to those he discovered 100 years ago that describes the Book of the Gates and the Book of the Dead. Both of these relics come from ancient Egypt and were used in funeral ceremonies. According to Wasiri, who was in charge of leading the archaeological expedition, the excavation turned up a total of 150 bronze sculptures of Egyptian deities as well as ritual instruments that dated back to the late period of ancient Egypt, which lasted from 500 BC to about 100 BC. The government of Egypt is placing its hopes in a spate of recent archaeological finds in the hopes that this would help revitalize the tourist sector in the nation, therefore bringing in much needed foreign cash and generating new employment opportunities. In April of the previous year, archaeologists announced that they had uncovered a 3,000-year-old lost golden city in the city of Luxor, which was located in the southern region of Egypt. This was a discovery that they said had the potential to be the most significant since the tomb of the boy king Tutankhamun was discovered. The most recent archaeological findings were found at the Saqqara necropolis, which was formerly a part of the burial grounds for the ancient city of Memphis. UNESCO has designated the area where its remains are located as a World Heritage Site. For the purpose of the exhibition, the sarcophagi will be relocated to the brand new Grand Egyptian Museum, which is scheduled to open in November, close to the world-famous Giza pyramids outside of Cairo. The hoax report that Osiris's tomb has been opened has caused panic on Twitter, and many users feel that we shouldn't test the patience of the god of the underworld by interfering with his affairs. What do you all think about the discovery? Let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.